intro for those of you guys who are not super familiar with Houzz. Houzz is the leading online platform for home remodeling and interior design. It's meant to be a one-stop shop for everything that you need to get your home projects done. And the history of Houzz is that it really comes from a real problem. This is a very pink bathroom that our co-founders, they're a husband and wife couple, they bought a house and then they went and embarked upon a renovation journey. In fact, I'm told that their pink bathroom was actually much crappier than this, but the whole process was actually really difficult. And it turns out in home remodeling, there's a lot of unknowns. There's a lot of communication challenges. It is hard to find professionals. It is hard to find inspiration. It is hard to gather all the data to be able to understand exactly what you're getting yourself into. And it's also hard to actually visualize the process and be able to communicate the actual vision that you want to achieve. And so they basically went and put all the different aspects of what's really needed to communicate to get their projects done sort of under one umbrella. And it started first as a side project that grew to a very large platform for home remodeling. And the features that's basically contained within this umbrella is that you can get inspired. We have 18 million high-resolution, professional quality photos to help you understand what it is that you can accomplish. You can buy products. We have little tags on all of our photography that basically shows you what is the closest product within our marketplace so that you can actually see something you like and maybe buy it or try to reproduce that look. And in fact, this particular feature, we do have the ability for the actual professionals who uploaded the photos to tag the products. But for those that do not do the tagging, we actually have machine learning algorithms, computer vision algorithms that go and find the closest match so that it is something that is meant to be very automated and high volumes of data to really help you sort of achieve a particular look. We allow you to find a professional. We have 2.4 million professionals across 64 different categories. This includes architects, GCs, it includes general contractors, includes interior decorators, and many, many, many more. You can read articles. There's over 20,000 different articles all about the process, ideas, anything that you might think of. There's probably an article for that. And it's a place where you can get advice. There is a very active community, over 4 million discussions going on between homeowners and professionals that basically help people sort of solve their day-to-day issues as they arise. And what's really important is that this is a highly engaged and very, very relevant audience. Over 90% of Houzz users are homeowners. And these homeowners have a very high likelihood to take action, such as make purchases or make plans or decorating ideas within the platform. And with this audience, it basically means that we have a really great platform to sort of engage on all the different things to do with visualization and AR. It's a great platform for us to plug into. So a little bit of background from me. So I joined Houzz in 2015, so almost 4 years ago. And before I joined, there actually wasn't a whole lot to do with any type of sort of 3D visualization or AR. And in fact, when I joined, I came in with one other person. We were actually acqui-hired into Houzz to really found sort of a department to think about sort of the innovative ideas that we can inject into this sort of ecosystem. So when we first started, it wasn't really obvious that we were going to do AR for products. It wasn't a shopping experience to start. We were given a blank slate. We prototyped. And we did a lot of brainstorming and sort of dabbling around. But what was really cool was that because we have such an engaged audience within Houzz, we very quickly arrived at something that the audience or the users were telling us. Oops. There we go. This is a real post on our forum. There are many like it. Turns out furniture buying is actually pretty difficult. You can't even walk into a store and actually try on furniture in your own home. It's something that you don't actually do all that often, and so when you get it wrong, it is a very expensive mistake, and it's an expensive mistake that is really hard to sort of roll back. So one of our very early insights is really understanding that there are opportunities to sort of fix this particular problem. And the first step that we actually took in fixing the problem wasn't actually within sort of the 3D or the AR initiative at all. And in fact, the first approach was a 2D version. So what had happened was the mobile team actually did a little bit of a hackathon, and they went and took the product photos, removed the background, and used them as stickers to help you visualize things in your room. And the really cool thing that they kind of did with this was that they were able to apply this to just about any photo in the entire library that we have. So that basically meant if you were shopping for anything, there was an opportunity in which you can view it in your room as a 2D sticker. So in this group, that is super primitive. Of course, it's not really sort of spatially aware. It doesn't have all the sort of capabilities and the functionalities that we have today with AR. But back then, it was sort of a scrappy way that we were able to solve problems with, right? And the really amazing thing is that because we were able to put a little entry point, a little view in my room icon in every single product page, we had amazing results. And in fact, users that used this feature were 3 times more likely to make a purchase than those who didn't. And of the purchases that were made, 50% of users actually used this feature right before purchasing. So it was astounding results. And all of this to a very, very simple sort of a feature, a simple usability. So we basically went, within the 3D group ourselves, and we dug around our prototypes, and we thought about, okay, what can we do to sort of make this experience better? And luckily, we already had sort of a prototype that basically answered this question. This is something that we had maybe within the first couple of weeks of being in Houzz, we actually threw this together in an afternoon. It was a very simple Unity demo where we dropped the model in, we used only the gyroscope, it doesn't have any tracking whatsoever, it didn't have any scale. And what was really interesting was that before View in My Room 2D was released, we actually built this demo and then we kind of shelved it because when we were thinking about it, we were like, oh, we wanted to create a sort of standalone feature or standalone kind of experience, and that was where the sort of Unity thing came into play. And it didn't really occur to us that we could actually do full integration. It just seemed like too much of a technical challenge. But when we saw the actual success with View in My Room 2D, it became obvious that that was something that we had to work towards no matter how difficult it was. Because if you were able to get such good results with a 2D sort of sticker-like experience, imagine what it would be like if we were able to put a fully 3D sort of integrated experience into that flow. So I'm going to sort of fast forward. Obviously, there was a lot of technical challenges that we worked through, and we were able to sort of overcome a lot, and we made it to our first release in, actually it's about 2 years now, and it was before ARKit and ARCore was available. And we made something that basically had absolutely no tracking. It was very simple, but what was really, really sort of astounding was that we were able to get it right into the flow where it's right inside of the Houzz app. And you can basically do all the things that you do within Houzz and then go straight into the View in My Room 3D experience. This video is actually one of our ARCore ARKit experiences, so this does have tracking, but just to kind of show you guys where the sort of entry point and this full integration sort of happens. So part of what we think made our experience so successful was that we really answered to the question of visualization in the shopping flow. So you can basically do the visualization, pop right out, and do checkout on those. There you go. And since we were able to be fairly early with our AR experiences fully integrated, when ARCore and ARKit were released, we were also able to upgrade to those AR libraries and get tracking and scale estimation basically day one. And it was a very successful feature for us. When we released, we found that people who used and engaged with this feature were 11 times more likely to make a purchase than those who don't. And since then, about over 2 million users have used AR while shopping. So this has been about 2 years, and one of the things that's really, that we basically spent a lot of time thinking about was going back to that 2D experience. Well, that 2D experience basically let you do just preview about anything. Sure, it was very limiting in its preview, but the thing is you could do wall products or products that hung on the wall, products that hung on the ceiling. And with a lot of the AR libraries, everything is sort of tied to the floor plane. And this is, now sure there's some vertical floor detection, or sorry, vertical plane detection, but right now it's, that's a little bit sort of less predictable as well. Back then, even before vertical plane detection, we were thinking about all sorts of ways where we can really expand all the different categories that people actually shop for. It's great to say, oh, visualization-wise, we can get a predictable experience for things that you place on the floor, but in reality, that's just not how people shop. People buy ceiling products, people buy wall products, and we'll see later, people also buy tile. So we basically spent a lot of time really thinking about the simple gestures that we can introduce into our features to vastly expand on the amount of functionality and the amount of categories that we can handle. So let me just give you sort of a very quick sort of example with one of our first ones, which was wall products. So with wall products, we're basically still relying on AR libraries to basically do our simple tracking. So you still have to initialize with the floor scan. But what we then ask you to do is walk right up to the wall that you're going to do the visualization on, or where you want to hang the product, and we use the gyroscope information to figure out the floor plane, or the wall plane. And then we let you adjust, and you can actually place wall products. Likewise, with ceiling products, we just ask you simply to look up. These very simple gestures basically allowed us to use the AR capabilities that were already built into mobile devices and allowed us to add very simple and very predictable gestures to vastly improve the number of categories and the overall sort of content that we were able to handle. Just last month, we introduced even more advanced capability that basically allowed us to replace surfaces altogether. So this feature is View in My Room tiles. And with this, again, we chose to use very simple sort of gestures that allows you to draw a perimeter of a space that you want to place tile on and actually be able to see the product sort of tile and allow you to adjust. And the really cool thing about this is because you define the perimeter, we also help you estimate and check out for the amount of tile that you need to buy. Obviously, we're a company that has a lot of technology and a lot of folks that do sort of more vision-related and more sort of sophisticated algorithms. But when it came to sort of user experiences, we basically opted for predictability. And at the end of the day, AR itself has some unpredictable behaviors built in. So wherever you can, sort of as a design philosophy, if you can introduce predictability, we basically follow that as a rule. So one other thing that I want to talk about is that is sort of our success in terms of our ability to kind of focus on content. So one of the cool things about the Houzz AR experience is not just that we've expanded the content into categories that typical AR doesn't really handle, such as wall and ceiling products, but we also have a very, very high volume of it. And in fact, we have over 1 million viewable products viewable in 3D. And I'm not going to go into sort of the details on our pipeline, and we have a lot of things that are sort of proprietary that's built in. But I think what's really important that we try to talk about is sort of approaching this problem, you have to think about AR sort of end to end. So it's not really just about the placement or the UX or the sort of visualization, but it also is about how do you get the data, how do you create that data, and what kind of technologies do you put into solving the data problem. At Houzz, we spend a lot of time solving the data problem. And it's not just time, it's not just money, but it's technology. And technology is sort of the foundation for our content creation pipeline. So let me just give you an example from sort of the tile data set from the feature that I just showed. So if you look at a typical page of tiles, these are actual tiles from the Houzz marketplace, you're going to see there's a lot of not so square things that might not actually repeat very naturally if we just took the default pictures. And in fact, even the rectangular ones you'll see in a minute isn't all that straightforward in terms of tiling either. So there's obviously a lot of background removal technologies, a lot of automations that we can place in place to try to be smart about it. But if you think about it really, really granularly, tiles is actually really complicated because we don't really know, for example, how there's information on how big a tile is, we don't really know if it's referring to a single tile in the picture or multiple tiles in the picture. We don't really know how to handle the instance where there is sort of a perspective view. And then how things overlap is also very tricky. So for all the outliers, we actually build tools in-house that basically help us, first of all, understand the data problem, and then second of all, actually solve the data problem by basically creating simple UI so that users that are not super sophisticated in how to tile textures can actually create sort of information metadata that helps our systems understand how something might tile. So these are basically very simple sort of examples of how things can be brought together so that we basically give information on how things overlap. This is an example where we're also showing how something that is perfectly square might also have additional metadata sort of associated with how we want to display the final tile result. And then there's entire categories of tiles that are just kind of oddly shaped that you can't actually do sort of single axis rotations, and we have to solve around that. But the real sort of key takeaway is that when you start really diving into the sort of problem set in content, that's where you learn sort of all of your challenges. And when you learn those challenges, you can create technology to actually solve that. So part of how we get to the big numbers that we're able to get to in terms of content creation isn't just about throwing bodies on it. It really is about sort of thinking through the data, the metadata that underlies it, and really breaking down what kind of components we want to introduce. So that's basically it for me.